Hello and welcome to Supreme Commander, Forge Alliance Forever. Today, we're looking at a game I was sent a little while ago, featuring the map generator once again. I mean, as you may have seen, there was recently a 1 versus 1 map generator tournament, featuring both of these players. And this game comes from a little before then, so if you're interested in more MapGen games, then check out the casts I did on the channel, the stream. And yes, I also did some dual casting with farms during that stream if you're interested. So let's take a look at the players. We got Blodir at the bottom, and we got Archsimkat at the top. Both SA players. And both Seraphim, both gone first land, unsurprisingly. So let's take a look at the map. The map generator has given us some civ buildings. Blodir says, "Today I will teach you the art of the T2 mech." So that I like it. Blodir's got a plan. He's got something he wants to show us. Okay, so we got like a civ base. I saw this exact same base in the tournament as well on one of the 10x10 maps, I remember. Not sure how I feel about this base. I think it's fine. Any civ base that doesn't have T2PD is usually fine. Quite a lot of mass in that thing, and all you really need is some T1 artillery to take that out. So that's a nice chunk of mass that needs to be grabbed. It also, I kind of like that it's not in the middle of the map, so it's not going to block air. I mean, if you fly air over this, goodbye to your air. Blodir's gone first land. Second, not even a factory. Second, T2 mechs. This is what you must do if you wish to learn the art of the T2 mechs. Forgo your second factory and go second T2 mechs. So we're already learning. Now we also have some scouts and engineers, and the first tank is about to come out of the factory for Blodir now as well. So we can see here we start with quite a bit of mass in the main base. We have like 6 mexes here and a hydro, and that's quite a lot of resources to start with. We don't have too much reclaim next to us though. On the flip side, we also have a lot of mass out across the map. We have a base down here with 3 mexes. We have some spread mexes, but not many. We also have a 4 mex expansion here, 4 mex expansion here. I think maybe one thing about the map gen, I would like to see maybe some decals under mexes perhaps when the terrain is very light, because as you can see, it's quite difficult to see the mech spots here. When you zoom out, it's still pretty difficult, but slightly more visible. But that's a minor thing. So yeah, we also have some interesting terrain. Arch has an air factory. He's got 2 land factories as well. He's got a tank out to defend. It's not really in position though. And the Celine has gotten past. So yeah, not good positioning from the tank and the scout here. I'm not sure. They're not really working together very well. And that's a draw between 2 Celines. Now, Celines, their buff at the end of last year, certainly more capable of killing engineers. In this case, the buff really didn't matter, as Celine didn't even have to turn its gun. You can see now it can turn its gun, which is a nice improvement for them. Let's try and follow this guy. My mouse mat has reached its conclusion, but that's an excellent kill. Probably the most valuable engineer available to be killed, and shows why you should probably, instead of trying to cover an area of this size with a tank and a scout, you should maybe just leave the tank right next to the engineer, and that way you can probably have a better chance of saving the engie. But yeah, Arch loses out there. Very nice raid, and there's been no raid on Blodir, but he is later to this expansion, so well, he would have been if he hadn't got the raid, and it looks like now he will be a little faster. Okay, that's not sure why he's getting mass here instead of, or reclaim instead of a mex, but he is. Look at this Celine, by the way, for Arch. That's a very nice Celine, because there's probably the ACU is not going to arrive here. Probably the ACU will go up, I would imagine. Towards the middle, but towards the right first. Oh, it looks like we have... This is quite... this is funny. There's a little passageway here, allowing access to and from this expansion on the right. So potential pressure can be put here, even though, yeah, it's... Although there is a small passageway, you can certainly fit some tanks through there. There's some throughput available. T2 mechs for Arch as well. Actually, 2, and he's making storage. I think this is probably an error, like an accidental error. I would reclaim that. Well, he had a bit of mass, I guess he can finish it. But yeah, he really stalled mass pretty heavily there while he making the T2 mechs. So he did a bit of suffering to get that done, and Blodir is still almost at 1 mechs ahead, as he's at 90% of his third mechs upgraded. And he's still in his base with his ACU, which is not what I would like to see. Arch seems to be slower to this expansion than Blodir. No PD queued up here, which is, again, perhaps a bit of an error. And these MapGen... Oh, look at this guy. So Blodir, yeah, obviously is actually... Seems like perhaps... Yeah, both players sort of attacking the outskirts with tanks, but not actually expanding there too well. I mean, Arch tried to, but actually managed to avoid the tank, and he's going to build a factory here, which is a nice move. I like this move. But on a lot of these MapGen maps, in the 10x10 versions, I feel like there's a lot of major expansions, and really, I would be investing in PDs in a lot of these. I mean, ideally you don't need one here, all the way back here. Ideally, but even in that case, it might be worth it in some cases. Although both players really making a lot of eco, so maybe they can afford to not invest in static defenses, as neither them nor their opponent is really spamming a huge amount of T1 units. Arch in particular is already a T2, and he's really going to put all of his mass in land production into T2 land. He's only has 2 other land factories at the moment. Well, 3 other land factories at the moment. 4th one just completed, and this land factory should enable him to take this expansion. Needs to start making maybe a few tanks out of it first. Arch does make a PD in his expansion here before walking forward with the commander. That's usually what you would like to do. Get the ACU involved to secure the expansion, and then so that the ACU is free to leave and control other parts of the map, you first build a PD so that in your wake you don't leave vulnerable mexes. So it looks like a raid from Blodir towards the top right, and Arch is investing in a PD there, and it's done. That's going to be a good move. This could turn into a mass donation. There's already a decent force, maybe slightly greater than equal force for Arch already. It's a pity he lost the engineers that would have been able to get the reclaim, but as it is, he's killed the raid, and that tank dies to the final PD shot. Not much airplay at the moment, but Blodir does have actually a nice air force. A transport, T2 land complete, of course, as well for him. And he has 4 T2 mechs at this point. He also has the rightmost expansion, which is a nice advantage to have compared to Arch, who still does not have those 4 mexes. Arch has come to middle though and stolen reclaim, it looks like, from Blodir's side. He's still quite a bit of natural reclaim on this map available to both players, especially Arch, given his mid control, thanks to, again, his use of the ACU. Blodir is still in the base with his comm. T2 PGen is up. Air factories built. directly adjacent to that PGen. More air production is planned with a nice T2 PGen, T1 Air Factory grid. You can see if we show you how that's arranged. Basically you offset the factories slightly, and then you can fit, well, you could even fit a factory here. This would be a great place for a T2 factory, as there is also mechs adjacency available there. So yeah, this is a nice way to get adjacency with your T2 PGen, and you can kind of continue it on. It's also the same kind of grid you might use for T3 mass fabs and T3 PGens, I believe. The sizes are the same. I believe the footprints are the same there. Very nice attack on the left from Blodir, killing this expansion. Before it really even is completed, only 2 mechs go down. The other 2 weren't even finished. And if he moves in and kills this factory, it's going to be tricky to take the expansion back, or this is going to take a little while. A factory built on this plateau. This is quite a strange plateau. I mean, it is a map. It is a quote-unquote randomly generated map. I mean, obviously it's not random. It's nobody would want to play a randomly generated map. It's a map generated within certain parameters, we'll say. But yeah, sometimes it generates things which don't really make too much sense in general. I mean, there is some reclaim here, but I don't really like the investment of all these engineers in a factory. It's a bit much to put on this plateau, considering there's not that much reclaim there, and there's no mexes, so no long-term economy in that position. But still, I mean, it's a bit of map control. It's more intel for sure. Bombers come in to try and force these units away. Actually, Blodir just retreats, which is, I think, a move that people could learn a lot from. You don't need to... Oh, this is a bad air fight. Blodir split his inties to kill 2 bombers at once, and he pays the price because Arch sends in his air, immediately destroys one of the groups of inties, and now has a more even fight than he ever deserved. He really didn't have as many inties as Blodir, I know that for a fact. And yet he's in basically an equal air fight right now, and he may win. It depends on Micro at this point. And I also hear ACUs fighting with overcharges. On the other side, Blodir looks like he's going to win the fight, although that was a bit closer than it should have been. Blodir walks forward with the gun commander. Having finished the T2 PGen, the gun came quickly, and he steps forward and basically retakes the expansion that he really ought to have had already. And it's a little bit back and forth, but overall Blodir with the faster eco. Look at this, actually. T2 mechs is fully in this expansion. Suddenly, this plateau looks kind of dangerous to not have control of, which is a bit weird. I mean, I'm not sure if MMLs could fire from here. You don't want to invest in a T2 factory here anyway. Certainly T1 artillery is not going to do anything, but here's one advantage. Edge building factories down back off the plateau into the expansion, getting some reclaim and going to retake the mexes. It may not be the most efficient way to take these mexes back. More efficient would be dropping engineers from a transport from the base to here, or dropping engineers from somewhere where you have a few spare. Would be more efficient than investing in more engineers, more factories. But still, this works. It's functional. Somehow Blodir... Oh, I thought he was on the plateau, but he's not. In fact, he's just below. And this expansion is retaken almost completely. I hear a flak. Arch has been sniping Nothas that have come out of Blodir's factory. He's wasted quite a few units, but now it's Arch that has wasted quite a few inties there. Now, he does save a lot of them, but Blodir, you feel, has the greater production. I don't know what would tell me that he may have more air production, but it's probably all these air factories, right? No T2 support factories, but a lot of air factories. And actually Arch, well, damn, that's a lot of production for him as well. More so in engineers, but here we go. That's a major drop here. 2 Ilshis. And gunships are coming in to defend the expansion. And that means we're going to have another air fight. There's a mountain, and you don't want to fight near terrain. You don't want to fight air over mountains. As a rule, it can screw you up monumentally, and I'm not sure if it had how much of an impact or what impact it had there. I think Arch simply had more inties here. Wins air convincingly. Here's some dead Nothas on the ground. And also an attack from Blodir, which seems ill-advised. He's got Ilshis. It's a big commitment from him, and now he's trying to retreat away, but it's far too late. Look at the army from Arch. So many Ilshavo. And there's the commander as well, and that's a large reclaim field. 7k reclaim on the map now, or on that screen, almost 16k on the map. And there's 6 Voltus, the most powerful of the T2 gunships, heading towards this T2 mechs filled expansion. They are missing a lot. I'm gonna blame terrain for that once again. A flak is coming in. That can be sniped by this many Voltus. Actually, there's 2 flags. And finally, both players very deep into the game decide to go after the civilians to get the reclaim, when it's really not too relevant anymore, to be honest. It's certainly every little helps, but I mean, it helps a lot more when the economy is smaller. And it only took a couple of Zuis, so it's kind of a bit sad that they didn't take it earlier. Look at this fight though. An army with no comm versus an army with a comm. Arch does not have the gun, but he does have overcharge, I'm sure of it. Oh my god, he's minus 200 mass, or 200 energy. 2 P-gens. And that means this fight is far less efficient than it should be. Still huge amounts more reclaim left on his doorstep in a fight that he wins. I would have loved for him to pause air there. If you sometimes, guys, you just gotta go back to your base, select everything, and press the pause hotkey, just so you can overcharge in those crucial moments. And he could have saved a lot more of his own units and gotten himself a lot more veterancy, which would be useful going on further into the game. But still a great fight, and Blodir taking some bad fights, and his ACU retreated really far back, and I'm gonna say that that's because of the consistent air losses in the past few minutes. Another expansion under attack now from the Voltus. This is the power of air, switching the point of attack from one expansion to the next, and there's no static anti-air defenses. People, well, Blodir obviously not a fan of static defenses. He has TMD of course, but no PD in this expansion, and no anti-air. PD here, but no anti-air, and perhaps no build power or time to get anti-air up here. But also we see Arch maybe, well, certainly wasting gunships there. He has a huge swarm of inties, over 100 at this point, and yet does not cover his gunships and doesn't cover his base either. What's the use of 100 inties if Nothas can just fly into your base and kill 3 of your P-gens before you can even react? This is a major problem for Arch, as he loses every single T2 P-gen at once. Now, often P-gen snipes are not very relevant, but if you can snipe this many P-gens at once, send your opponent into a stall of this magnitude, you gotta feel that it's worth it. Now, fortunately for Arch, he can, well, he's not pausing air production. He really needs to pause air production because, again, he has air control. More inties are not going to help him. And there's still a huge amount of reclaim. Look at all of these dead Ilshavo. And because they didn't get overcharged, they actually have basically their full mass value still in the wreck. So still positives for Arch. He was actually making an upgrade. He was making the gun at the same time as he's lost all the pigeons. He still hasn't got even one of them back up. Now you can see here he's doing one of the tricks that you can do. As you probably know, you can rebuild things from halfway if you replace the building directly on its old position. And you know, it'll appear half built basically, and you can build it from halfway. One thing you can do is what Arch is doing here. You place the building, so it's you have half the building remaining, and then you begin reclaiming that structure, and that will give you back mass, but it will also give you back energy, unlike a wreck. A wreck only gives mass. A half-built structure, when reclaimed, also gives the energy back, and it gives the full value of the mass and energy that's in the structure. So in that way he could gain basically a little bit more energy income to enable him to finish the 2 other pigeons. So he reclaimed both of these from halfway, which basically pays for 1 pigeon when you put it together. Simple maths. 2 halves equal 1. And Blodir is actually a T3 land, so he's taken. That's actually a nice move by Blodir there. He not only, well, he took advantage of the time gained by the not sniping power to switch his tech up, and that's what you need to get to the next tech level, is time primarily. I mean, you need the resources, of course, but resources also come with time. And this is a very good raid with simple T1 units, few THAMs, and a T1 bomber as well chipping in. And again, a single T1 PD would deny this. The bombers would not be able to do this on their own, and this is multiple mechs going down for Blodir. He's trying to show us the way of the T2 mechs, but Arch is pressing and trying his best to kill these T1 mechs. Is another airfight. This still does not look good for Blodir. He's not fighting near his anti-air, and he has less intis for sure. That's a good turn from Arch. And now he flies away, retreats over 3 flak, and Arch does not follow. Follows slightly, turns away from the flak shots, and heads to the east, where there's another fight going on that Blodir is actually winning. But again, winning fights does not mean winning reclaim. Arch is the one taking the mass. He has double the mass reclaimed at this point, 30k to 15k. And this entire expansion has been killed. It's been finished now by T1 bombers. T1 bombers coming from this cliff up here. So the plateau in the end serves as a staging ground to attack this position with just bombers. And there's a lot of production here with intis and or engineers and the factory, and also some T1 power being built. Probably as the T2 power in the base was sniped, that was built as some kind of replacement. That's a Sultanus. T3 mobile artillery crawling forward directly into the waiting arms of a couple of Ilchevaux, and that's 800 mass wasted for nothing. And the gunships continue to harass. Another expansion dead almost in its entirety, and this expansion looks very vulnerable. We have some engineers and 1 flak, and that's all. That 1 flak can be sniped by gunships, but the gunships sort of hung around a bit too long there, taking a few free shots. If you split the gunships to avoid the splash, you will certainly be able to kill some flak with gunships as powerful as these. And Arch with the gun now, still using his commander. Blodir really has been very safe. He's on 999 out of 1,000 veterancy. That's a bit sad for him. His beefy right arm is, well, virtually unused. He's afraid, I think, of stepping out, or perhaps is not respecting his opponent enough and thinks that he can take him out without using his commander, which is a strong statement. T3 air is also for Blodir. He's aiming for the higher tech at all times, but look at this. How about some lower tech attack? That is so many T1 bombers. And here they come. Blodir wins an airfight for what seems like the first time in the game. He has ASFs, he has inties, but here come the bombers. How many of them are going to get through? Oh, that's a lot. They're all dropping, and they're dropping directly in between the PGen and the factory. The PGen almost dies in a single pass, only less than 1,000 HP left on it. That's only going to take 4 bombs. 4 bombers need to bomb one more time. 1, 2, 3, there we go. The T3 PGen is dead. And Arch is getting very close to this base. There's a sniper in the base as well. That would be very useful versus the commander. But look at Arch. He's barely losing HP now as he walks forward. Blodir losing map control everywhere. Gunships overhead now attacking the replacement T3 PGen. Bombers still dropping in the same position. And Blodir says that is enough. And Control K is... He actually lost air. After the bombers bombed, I guess there was a lot more inties, perhaps just not quite in the fight yet, brought in as reinforcements at the last moment. And we have T1 PGens dying as well. There's only a couple of T2 PGens here, so once the T3 went down, the power stall was severe. This expansion dead. Factory edge built, that's gonna be spamming Zuis in a moment. This expansion totally exposed. This expansion never secured really fully. And yeah, Arch was just in great position. He was actually not switching to T3 air. He was switching to T3 air, not the land. And yeah, well played by Arch. I think Blodir tried to make the greed work, and he made a good go of it, but some bad fights, and perhaps, well, some bad fights in the air certainly, and some bad fights in the land in the center, giving reclaim, I think, is ultimately what cost him. Perhaps he could have been a little bit more conservative with his forces and maintained an advantage that way, but Arch played well, took advantage, showed the power of the Tech 1. THAMs and bombers killing very high-tech economic structures, and Arch takes the win. Nice game on the MapGen, and a nice map on the MapGen. I mean, the mountains perhaps aesthetically are very samey. Maybe that could be improved. Certainly the aesthetics overall, though, are quite good. I mean, they're not up to the standard of, you know, the best map makers, of course. I mean, they're not going to reach that level as generated maps, but still, I gotta say, the MapGen is a very impressive thing. And hopefully it will continue to make incremental improvements. So, thanks for watching anyway. And hope you enjoyed. I will see you all in the next cast. Bye, guys.